My name is Elizabeth. I'm 25 years old. I am living in Washington, D.C. I am going to school part-time for my master's in international relations, and I'm working full-time for the Department of Agriculture, ensuring that low-income families in the U.S. have access to food. I was born in Santa Marta, Colombia in 1992. I grew up in a family of 5, including myself, and I have 2 brothers. One is younger and the other one is older, and of course myself. So I'm the only girl, the one in the middle. We live in very rural areas of Colombia. This was because of my parents' work. My parents are both anthropologists. I got the opportunity to visit some of my parents' work as anthropologists, which I honestly hated growing up as a child. So we were going to indigenous communities in Colombia and learning about their culture when they have festivities, which again, I hated it because I was the only weird child going to these remote villages, visiting indigenous communities, while my friends were just having fun with their families. During this time growing up, there were a lot of conflict going on in the country, but also I would say this was a very happy time. Honestly, I didn't feel that I was growing in the middle of the conflict until I realized it as a teenager. But my parents always ensured that we were happy children, we're doing a lot of activities. The issue started because peasants, they got their land taken away from some rich individuals. Also, I would say wealthier peasants. And in the 50s, we got the Cold War, and these ideas that the peasants should get their land back, all of these ideas that came from, again, Cuba and the Soviet Union, it also inspired these peasants. So the peasants got together and they armed themselves, they formed groups, illegal groups, and they were fighting against, of course, the wealthier peasants. Because of this conflict too, my family was also threatened, especially because there were different armed groups that were fighting, and my father was going to these villages and they both thought that he was part of one group or the other group. And because of these issues, we had to leave these rural areas, and then we migrated to a city for some time, but I will say that things didn't go well. So after that, we had to come to the United States, where we came with political asylum. Because we were a big family, 5 people, we usually only had like one big vacation during the year, and we would go to the beach close to our small town, our small village. And then there we will meet with other families, other family friends, and other things. Sometimes we will go to the city where my parents were from, and there we will be visiting our grandparents, our cousins and aunts, uncles. That was usually for Christmas, and it was really fun just seeing family again and getting new toys because it was Christmas time. I would say we were financially stable in this village, and my parents tried to had us in the best schools that they could in those villages. Again, for the standards of the village, it was one of the best, and I was also one of the best students, always in the first or second top of my class. I was a very good student since I was a child. I love education, and my parents always encourage us to be the best in school. We moved to this city from the village to the big city when I was 12, 13. I would say it was a little challenging for me coming from the village to this city and learning so much materialism in that city, I would say. And there was so much focus on physical beauty for girls especially. I remember in this city, all my friends were always already telling me that I had to wear makeup and have to dress up in this way. And when I came to the US, at the age of 14. The change was also very radical. So when I came here, I was 14. I didn't know English. It was a very, very extreme change for me, I would say. But I was very happy to be here because I felt that people weren't necessarily just looking at me for the physical beauty only. And that part, I really liked it. And when we came here, we had lost everything in the country. So we had to start from zero. And the financial part was now very hard for us. We were living now maybe in one bedroom, all of us. And sometimes we didn't even have food or even money to pay for rent. It was very, very difficult. My parents didn't speak English. It was hard to find a job, and I would say that it was a change for me also to learn to be more humble, because I felt that in my country I was growing as this very privileged child. You know, I was living in one of the best neighborhoods, going to one of the best schools, and now I was here living in these other conditions. School was now very difficult, and I wasn't as good student anymore. My house was also going through a lot of difficulties. I would say my parents were arguing often. It wasn't a very happy environment again at home. And I think this was reflected at school. And also school was difficult for not being in English. I didn't understand the system. I didn't know how can I, be a good student here. It's different standards. I mean, even though I was sad to know that this was happening, I was very happy to be in this country and to know that I could one day have other possibilities, maybe better opportunities than what I had in that small village. Because I was living in this Spanish city in Miami where everyone speaks Spanish there. I couldn't practice my English even though I wanted to learn English. My teachers will talk to me in Spanish. The classes will be taught to me in Spanish because they wanted to help us learn the material. But I was going to now learn English on the other hand. So it was very hard for me actually to learn English in that city, in Miami. The financial crisis stayed here in the US, and things weren't getting better. They were actually getting worse. And when we look at the news at that time, we would hear people committing suicide because they lost their job, they lost their homes. It was a very difficult time in the US. And because we couldn't go back to Colombia and my parents couldn't find a job here, we moved to Costa Rica. My father got a job in Costa Rica, and before we moved, I remember one day coming home from school and I saw some weird people at my house that I've never seen before. They were talking to my mom. I think they were studying some materials. But they were also like staring at me and smiling, and I was like, who are these weird people? After they left, I talked to my mom and I say, who are these people? And she mentioned that they were Baha'is and that she was learning about this new religion and this new faith. I was like, you are weird. But I also asked her, like, are you okay? Like, why are you doing this? This is very weird. I mean, we have been in the same religion forever. Why are you trying to change now? And then she was like, no, this is different. I can feel it in my heart. I was like, okay, I just left her alone, but I wasn't happy, to be honest. And a few weeks later, she declared Baha'i, and we moved to Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, I saw that she continued in contact with these weird people. They came to the house, and I never stopped and asked a question. I was just living my life in Costa Rica. I was happy. My family was financially stable again. I had new friends. I had a boyfriend, and I was just focusing on that. And I would pass by where my moms were talking to the Baha'is, and I was just like ignore her and look at them like weird and bad. After being there for a year and a half too, I came back to the US. My younger brother got epilepsy, and the medicine in Costa Rica was not very good. So we came back to the US. My mom came with my younger brother. And after a few months, I decided to come back to stay with my mom and also to start university. So my family was separated physically for some time. And coming back here was also a very difficult time for me again, because I was separated from my boyfriend at that time, and I was now more interested in figuring out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was thinking about going to college and what I wanted to study. I started college in Costa Rica, but I didn't feel that I belonged there. I was always kind of treated as like, you are a foreigner. Even though we speak the same language, I was always considered a foreigner. I was just thinking like going to college here for 5 years in Costa Rica and then eventually struggle to even find a job here. Because I am a foreigner, I'd rather spend this time and resources in the US. So I came back here, and I also felt that the things with my boyfriend were going to end at some point. I just felt it because he was also looking for opportunities to move to Europe and do his university. So I knew it wasn't this serious long-term relationship. So when I came to the US, I was searching for what I wanted to do for my life. What is it that I want to study in college? And what are my values? What is it that I want for the rest of my life? And I was a little depressed too, again, because of my boyfriend. So my mom, again, invited me to these Baha'i gatherings. And I said, you know what? Let's try it. Let's give it a try. She has insisted for this in many years. So let's just listen to what they have to say. And I like it so much. When I came back from Costa Rica, I saw my old friends still doing the same things, partying. I was tired of that. I didn't want to continue doing the same things. Again, I wanted to think about my future. So she invited me to these Baha'i gatherings, and even though it was a very small community and it was mostly older people, I was so happy there. I felt at peace, and I felt that I wasn't being judged or that I wasn't being asked to do anything, but just to be there, and I liked it. I remember going to a lot of devotionals and firesides, and I like listening to or learning about the principles of the faith about the equality of men and women, religion and science, universal education. And I was like, I had never heard this in another religious group. And I remember going to this fireside where they talked about progressive revelation. They explained specifically, I remember they put the name of the manifestation and the date when each one came, and they explained it very well. I was sitting in the first row of that fireside, and I was like, this totally makes sense to me. I mean, this is Baha'i faith. I was like, wow, I totally believe in this. And then my mom invited me to do the book one, the Ruhi book one, in Spanish. And I was like, no, I think I'm fine. This is too much. I'm already going to all these activities. And she insisted, she was like, please, let's go. I don't want to go alone. Please go with me. And I say, sure, I mean, let's go. I'm happy. And I really enjoyed the book one and learning about my soul, the importance of prayer. And after book one, I remember going to a devotional gathering, and I said, I believe in this, and I signed the card and I became a Baha'i. I don't think my father knows all the details specifically. He knows that we're part of the Baha'i faith. And he's very supportive. I think he likes it. I also feel sometimes that he doesn't understand much of what the Baha'i faith is, but he sees the change in us, especially in me, and he really likes it and supports us a lot. He sees that I'm not longer this crazy teenager that wants to party and be out at night doing who knows what, but that this girl actually cares about service and praying. And sometimes I share the prayers with them. So he sees this transformation in me that he supports a lot. After I declared Baha'i, I also felt that the journey was just starting. And after a few months, the Baha'is in that community invited me to go to the ISGP seminar, Institute for Studies in Global Prosperities. And I said, sure, let's go. I mean, it sounds amazing. I think after being in that seminar, I felt even more certain that I wanted the Baha'i faith for the rest of my life. I was able to see other young people that were also interested in praying and serving, that in my community, I mean, it was mostly elder people, so I hadn't seen any young people. I also realized throughout those months that what I wanted to do was to study international relations and contribute to other people throughout the world to have opportunities that I have had in my life, such as the opportunity to go to school or to have food and a house. None of my friends, knew about this religion, and they were just doing the same thing as I said, like they were partying. And on the other hand, I was on a Saturday night going to a devotional to pray. So it sometimes made me feel weird and question if I was being weird by doing different things than other young people were doing. But I loved it, and the more I kept going to these gatherings, I felt that I didn't need their approval, to be in these gatherings. That gave me so much joy and peace. And I immediately remembered that I was this rebel, crazy girl that didn't want even to listen to my parents, and how much it has transformed me personally. And that I now care about my family, the society that I want to serve, and that I'm striving to be a better person every day. And when I remember that, when they said that, I was like, this is so great that I want other people to have a similar transformation.